They call Baltimore the Charm City, and one look at the beautiful scenery of the Inner Harbor behind me lets you know that Baltimore certainly lives up to its nickname. Hello, everyone. I'm John Paul Della Camera. I'm your triathlon host for today's event, an event that brings the Bud Light USTS series to its halfway point. It's an interesting course for the athletes here in Baltimore. Several hills, and those could present a problem, especially with the heat. You've also got the race course that goes right through the streets of downtown Baltimore, giving fans a chance to see the athletes up close and see all kinds of exciting triathlon action. Literally, the police department of Baltimore will shut down the streets for the next several hours for this prestigious event and its many celebrated athletes, including on the men's side, Scott Molina, the defending champion in Baltimore just a year ago, but overall a national champion who has yet to win on the Bud Light circuit in 1987. Then there's Richard Wells, who had a lead last year against Molina here in Baltimore, but lost it only to finish up as number 2. Then there's Mark Allen, who won the very last Bud Light event held in the city of Atlanta, and Mike Pigg, who he beat in that event, but Mike Pigg is the sensation this year. He has 3 first-place finishes in 5 starts so far. On the women's side, there's the obvious favorite, Kirsten Hansen, who won in Baltimore a year ago. Good challenges could also come from Liz Bowman, who is overcoming a very slow start in 1987, and Diane Girard, a gifted swimmer who is starting to improve her times on the bicycle. But more than just the pros, we have some top amateurs and some very interesting stories, including some controversy this year involving the use of wetsuits. Our race coverage commentator, Carl Thomas, has more on that.
For years, scuba divers have used wetsuits to fight off the cold. Obviously safety related. The second factor, buoyancy. The rubber floats in the water. Well, triathlon today, we're seeing a new innovation. Wetsuits are now being used as a competitive advantage. The top elite triathletes today will be using wetsuits to keep their bodies up high in the water. It gives them a buoyancy factor and a competitive edge, and it's highly controversial. Some of the better swimmers really feel like wetsuits should be disallowed. The Tri-Fed USA rule is very ambiguous on the subject, so for 1987, it's all systems go with wetsuits, and we're going to see a lot of them out here today. So you're thinking of becoming a triathlete, huh? Well, set your alarm clock, because this is not a sport for sleepyheads. It's just after 5 a.m. These school buses carrying many of the triathletes all the way up to the start point at Gunpowder Falls. The morning dew is still heavy in the air, and in a way, this makes for a very interesting setting. Right now, everything is calm and tranquil. Everyone is relaxed. Yet in just a few minutes, the still of the morning will be broken by the piercing sound of men and women, pros and amateurs alike, thrashing through the water, punishing the road with their bicycles, and pounding the streets on foot. The morning ritual, now familiar to all triathletes, body marking. The number being marked corresponds to the race number. Each athlete will be tracked with that number all day long. With the start of today's race now just minutes away, it's time to get serious. And the many athletes who walk together to the start do so as friends. Their common bond is victory. Not so much against each other, although that's the case with some, but the kind of victory that comes from within, from competing against yourself. And for the next several hours, these triathletes will wage war against each other and themselves. On the banks of the Upper Chesapeake, Gunpowder Falls State Park, where the 1,500-meter swim kicks off the first leg of this morning's triathlon, and where on this particular morning, the fishermen will have to give way to a relatively new species, the triathlete. So once the competitors come out of the water, they come to this point, the bike transition area, where hundreds of bikes are parked. Once on the bike, the long ride to downtown Baltimore begins. The city's many historic neighborhoods transformed into a frenzied bike course. To the competitors on the bike, the city will become a blur, their thoughts consumed by the competition. And as the triathletes head toward the final leg of today's race, the 10-kilometer run, it's interesting to note that halfway through the 10K is Fort McHenry, the same Fort McHenry where Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner during this country's battle for independence. Today's pre-race favorites, Kirsten Hansen and Mike Pigg, are current leaders on the season-long Coke Grand Prix.
We're happy.
Behind me, you can see the swim course buoys being set. A flat lake here at Gunpowder Falls State Park, water temperature 74 degrees, air temperature about 80 to 85 today, no humidity, a perfect day for triathlon. At the starting line, the competitors ready themselves. In just a few minutes, their long ordeal through water, on bikes, and on foot will begin. And as the bright morning sun reflects off the water, so do many of these athletes reflect, thinking about the challenges ahead. about the many weeks, countless days and hours spent training and preparing for this very moment. And now the time is at hand. The mind's beginning to focus on the tasks ahead. The body's limbering up for what will be the ultimate test of fitness. And if you aren't ready now, you never will be. In this group, though, you'll find very few who will back down. They've all worked too hard, come too far to feel the pain of disappointment. Regardless of age, sex, or occupation, the men and women today are competitors. The sport of triathlon treats one and all with an equal amount of grace and an equal amount of disregard. No matter who you are, no matter what you've accomplished in life, out here, moments before race time, you're an equal. Here with Jack Ramsey, currently the head coach of the Indiana Pacers in the NBA. Not only a veteran basketball coach, but a veteran triathlete as well. Jack, how long have you been a triathlete?
Well, I started when the series, this current series started. I think that was in '82, Carl.
Right. Portland, Oregon, 1982. Since then, how many triathlons have you done?
I've done a couple each year. This year, I'm signed up for 3. So I try to keep active with them. There's some great people. There are 2,000 people here and some great pros in here. But I enjoy doing it. It's a sort of mental discipline for me. And to try and do a little better, lower your time each year if you can. So if I can get in under 3 hours, I'll be happy today.
Within seconds, the male professionals hurl themselves into the calm waters of the Chesapeake Bay, and the race is on. Hearts pounding and arms and legs thrashing against the water, the group begins to spread out immediately. New Zealander Rick Wells, the early leader, former New Zealand national swimming champion, former New Zealand national lifeguarding champion. It's not hard to understand why Rick Wells is the best triathlon swimmer in the world. Multicolored wetsuits cling to the bodies of most of these professional triathletes. They believe the suits will quicken their times and help keep them buoyant through the water. And for the better part of the 20-minute swim, these athletes will put every ounce of energy into each stroke and each kick and each action they use to move them through the water and toward shore. You can see Rick's wetsuit there doesn't have any sleeves on it. It does, however, go all the way to his ankles. And as Rick Wells swims through the Chesapeake Bay, take a look at that water. Some 1,800 age group triathletes, the swim is the scariest part of triathlon.
If you appreciate an active life and want to stay in shape, then invest in a new Schwinn bike from North Country Schwinn. Make your selection from the largest inventory in the South and get a no-time limit warranty. Along with each purchase of a new Schwinn bike comes a free 60-day checkup and adjustment. So stop by and visit us at North Country Schwinn and see our entire line of skateboards, scooters, exercisers, and bicycles. North Country Schwinn, serving the Woodlands area for over 10 years.
Does this look like a discount stock brokerage firm? It's Texas First, where you get high-quality service for up to 80% off regular rates. You have your own personal stockbroker with no waiting on the phone. Buy and sell orders are executed instantly by voice or electronic access. Trade processing is done locally, not in New York. So call or come by 1360 Post Oak Boulevard near San Felipe, or downtown at Travis and Rusk, 99.
Running and racing, an American sports revolution. Every week, see America's top triathletes and Olympic hopefuls in an exclusive ESPN series. Running and racing, Fridays at 6:30 Eastern.
10 minutes after the men's pro start, it's time for the pro women to line up, to gather on the shore for their eventual journey through the waters of Chesapeake. Like the men who started before them, these ladies walk to the starting line, and they're ready to begin. She can see some of the lead women here taking advantage of the shallow water, running as far as they can, then dolphining through the water. Please note also that the wetsuits are visible on most all of these ladies. Again, the belief is that the buoyancy will give them a competitive edge through the water. Wetsuits may give them a competitive edge, but wetsuits have also created one of the biggest controversies in the sport of triathlon today.
I feel that wetsuits should be allowed if the water is under 70 degrees, but when the water is 70 degrees and above, people are using wetsuits for the wrong reasons. They're using them to swim faster and add extra buoyancy, and I feel right now it's an unequal, unbalanced triathlon as it is, and it just gives people more of an advantage and at a disadvantage to the better swimmers. I am going to wear a full wetsuit tomorrow because I want to place in the top 5, and I can't afford to lose time in the water.
I thought that us as professional athletes looked really rather silly out there in wetsuits, but they are faster. The speed suits are faster, and now I really am forced to wear one. If all the other pros are wearing them and they are faster, I feel like I have to. I'd rather see them banned, but I can't give the other professional women the edge by letting them wear one and myself not wear one. They're not being used for the right purposes. If it's cold water, I'm for it. I think if the water temperature is cold and it could be a safety problem, they should be allowed. But when it's 80-degree temperature outside and everybody's wearing them just to have an edge and to be a little faster in the water for flotation, we may as well be using pull buoys and paddles.
Outlaw the wetsuits unless the water's cold, so that the emphasis is on skill as opposed to on technology. In other words, I'd be very happy if you were to say no wetsuits if the water's above a certain temperature and no fancy bikes.
Well, I do feel that wetsuits help, but personally I feel much more comfortable in them, maybe if it is a little bit cold. But also, I just feel so much safer out there. When you do get bumped or knocked or something, you know you're not going to go down. And I feel very comfortable with it. As far as the competitive edge, I think we're seeing most everyone, at least in the professional division, in them now. And so I don't think anyone's really getting a whole lot of edge over somebody else. I feel better in it personally, and so that helps me mentally, and that I'm more ready for the swim.
I feel that because everybody's getting in the wetsuit, it's almost like nobody has a wetsuit. I mean, it is helping the substantially worse swimmer, but you're not going to see that in the pro ranks anyway, because everybody at that level has already established themselves to be decent swimmers.
And while the women begin their battle through the bay, some of the men are ending theirs. The first leg of the triathlon is just about complete. The men's leader's no surprise, Rick Wells, New Zealander, as I mentioned earlier, one of the strongest swimmers on the triathlon circuit in the world, and a competitor who usually finds himself in this position, in the front. And with Rick on the lead, the battle for second is heating up. We've got 4 swimmers, maybe even 5 swimmers abreast here. Note that 3 of the 4 swimmers we see all have wetsuits on. And though he's in the lead, Rick knows there's no time to reflect on a job well done, only what lies ahead.
How'd your swim go?
Slack. Took your tour up there.
The wetsuit help?
Oh, for sure. It's just my directions were wrong. Yeah.
As Wells mounts his bike and rides off, he knows the others will soon follow. This first transition area of the race is about to be overrun with triathletes who, like our early leader, have no time to talk, no energy to waste. They arrive on shore with the same reckless abandon as Richard Wells. You can see one of our early leaders get on his bicycle. Here's Mark Allen, one of the pre-race favorites, 5-time winner of the Nice Triathlon World Championship. He goes through transition, and there's Harold Robinson, currently 2nd place on the Coke Grand Prix. As Mark gets on his bike, heads out of the transition area. Speed through transition, very important. Precious seconds gained or lost here. And with a competition as tough as it is here in Baltimore, every second counts. And now almost all of the professional men are on shore, making a dash for their bikes. Everywhere there are swimmers tugging at wetsuits and groping for shoes, trying to do so many things so quickly that sometimes even they don't know what's going on. Row after row after row of bicycles, some 1,800 of them, somewhere between $500 and $600 a piece, more than $1 million worth of bicycles in this transition area. And really, they come in all shapes and sizes, and the transition is a very strategic part of the race. Here, for example, there's a whole lot going on. There's a bucket of water right here. That triathlete will come in, put his feet in that water, get them rinsed off, then dry them off, into his cycling shoes, onto his bike, and out of the transition area. Here we've got another interesting point. This transition is built for speed. Notice the bicycle shoe already cleated into the bike. This triathlete will come in, do a quick dry off of his feet, hop on the bike, shoes and feet together, and out he goes. Saves valuable seconds. Legs pumping furiously, the riders wind their way out of Gunpowder Falls State Park, and for the men, the second phase of the Baltimore USTS has begun. For the next 24+ miles, man and machine will become almost one.
It was so simple. Really, a direct electrical charge here heats up the carbonized filament here, which in turn excites the gases trapped in here, and voila!
Well, it's very nice, Thomas. But I wanted a Bud Light.
If you want the great taste of Bud Light, ask for it.
Don't feel bad, Thomas. It's not a complete loss.
Bud Light, because everything else is just a light.
Triathlon, sweeping America. Catch the fever. Write USTS, Box 1389, Department Z, Solana Beach, California, 92075.
A lot of people who don't think they need a hearing aid may already have one.
Up 2 streets, take a right.
He said up 2 streets and take a right.
They bring their hearing aid with them everywhere.
What'd he say?
He said he doesn't want to leave her, but he has to.
Now there's a hearing aid for people reluctant to wear one. It's called Miracle Ear. If you can hear people talk but can't understand all the words, if you have nerve deafness, Miracle Ear could help. And Miracle Ear is tiny, practically unnoticeable. Call 1-800-233-9800 for a free booklet about better hearing, what steps to take next, and how to get a free hearing test.
Thousand Island or vinaigrette?
She said Italian, Thousand Island, or vinaigrette.
Call Miracle Ear, 1-800-233-9800. The phone call, information, and hearing test are free. Call now. When you're losing your hearing, the worst thing to do is nothing.
What did he say?
We're back at the swim finish with the lead professional women just now getting out of the water. Our leader here is Lisa Leidy, one of the bright up-and-coming stars on the USTS circuit. She's 23 years old from El Paso, Texas. And as Lisa heads toward the transition area, currently in 3rd place on the Coke Grand Prix rankings, there's a dark side to this story. 2 weeks after this event in Baltimore, Lisa was on a training ride in El Paso. She wasn't wearing a helmet. She was hit by a car, went to the hospital with serious and critical injuries. She spent nearly 2 weeks in the hospital under intensive care. The point I'm making here is one of safety. Triathletes all over the world are riding hundreds of miles a week, and safety is so important, and one of the things that we've required in the USTS competition from its inception has been a mandatory hard shell helmet requirement. And as we've watched Lisa here approach her bike and get ready to put that helmet on, had she been wearing this helmet the day of her accident, it's quite likely that her injuries would not have been nearly so severe.
How's the water? How about the wetsuit? You overheat?
And as we watch Lisa complete her transition and head out onto the bike ride, during the next 20 or so minutes, this scene will be repeated over and over again. One by one, the competitors arrive at their pre-assigned stations and begin the frantic process of removing wetsuits, putting on shoes, strapping on goggles and helmets, and pedaling off into the streets of downtown Baltimore. Number 63 here is Colleen Cannon, a USTS veteran. Back in 1983 and 1984, Colleen was a multiple winner on the USTS circuit. The last couple of years, she's faced some injury. She's concentrated on longer races. This is Colleen's first USTS race of the season, and she's very fit. What's interesting to remember is that the wetsuits, these beloved layers of rubber that help these athletes improve their times in the water, are now for some a menace. They must be removed to continue the next leg. But discarding them seems like pulling off a second layer of skin. Some of the athletes use Vaseline on their ankles to help eliminate what we see right here, a time-consuming process that causes some to possibly lose whatever valuable seconds were gained by using the wetsuit in the water. But for these competitors, there's no time to worry about what has been gained or lost. There's only time to grab their bikes, put their helmets on, take a deep breath, and hit the road.
Can somebody get me a towel, okay? Take your time. Take your time. Thanks.
Pedals in the cleats and on down the road. It's a long way from Bloomington, Indiana to Baltimore, Maryland, but the only distance Rob Mackel is thinking about now is just how much further he has to ride before he can get off his bike and get on with the final phase of this triathlon. Mile after mile, his legs flex and strain, propelling his bike through the hilly terrain and winding roads of this host city. Slowly, the scenery about him and the other competitors is changing. What started out as a bike race in the rural country area is gradually evolving into a show in the city. At speeds upwards of 30 miles per hour, these top riders are heading for downtown Baltimore. And that means narrowing streets and roads, quick turns, some potholes, and plenty of potential problems. Mike Plant from the USTS tells us more.
The Baltimore course is fast and exciting with a net elevation loss from the start at Gunpowder Falls State Park down into the Inner Harbor. The last few miles are tremendously fast, all downhill. Some of the athletes will be scared to death coming down in there. But the early miles are filled with these long ups and downs. There's long downhills that you see behind me, and then the long climbs on up. The athletes, as they climb the hill, we have to get out of their seat. Their breathing will get harder. Their legs will burn a little bit. Now, that makes it sound as if it's actually tougher on a hilly course than a flat, but that's not so. Many of the athletes actually prefer a course with varied terrain. They're off their seats, on their seats, their leg changes, their position changes, and they'll find that the run is actually easier. And as a matter of fact, these hills are only the first of many obstacles they're going to encounter on this course. Wow, that's just one of about 10, 12 of those kind of turns on this course, on the Baltimore course. Downhill, fast, around the corner. All of the choices are bad. The road's torn up. If you take it too far inside, you're on the curb. You take it too far outside, you're in a dent. You've got to watch the road on the other side. It's crazy. You need a little bit of skill. You need a lot of bike handling skill. You need a little guts, and you also need a lot of luck. We've had a lot of help from the city of Baltimore putting on this race, but you know, welcome to the big city. This is triathlon. I mean, we're talking water coming up here. You got bikes coming 30 miles an hour, broken pipe, construction. The athletes are really going to have to keep their heads up here. Of course, I'm wet. You got a construction plate over here, asphalt again, the road's kind of torn up. We're going to do the best we can. The athletes are going to have to watch out and be safe. And again, a little luck here. Triathlons are all about human endurance, but of course we haven't talked about bicycle endurance and the varied terrain that the athletes are going to have to ride on, the cobbled streets, the cracks, the manhole covers all create a problem from a mechanical sense. The athletes are liable to run into flat tires, bent rims, perhaps a broken spoke here or there, and sometimes on a fast downhill they can actually spin their chains right off their chain rings. So there are all sorts of things they're going to have to contend with. The trick is to remain alert, keep their heads up, eyes open, and make sure that their bikes stay in one piece to the finish line.
Back to the action with Mark Allen, one of the pre-race favorites. See him there up out of his saddle, driving his legs. And there's Richard Wells. Mark's just past Richard Wells. And Rick, this is really a familiar position for him as we see a close-up of Mark Richard Wells traditionally leads races coming out of the water, only to be passed on either the bicycle ride or the run. The sun reflecting off those spokes as we continue to watch Mark Allen driving his legs. Head down, a picture of concentration. And I'll tell you, Mark knows that Mike Pigg is behind him here all season long. Mike Pigg has really set the new standard for bicycle racing. He's taken 4 or 5 and in some cases 6 minutes off course records from a year ago. And Mark Allen is very aware that Mike Pigg is probably the best bicycle rider in this field. Again, we see Richard Wells, and both Mark and Richard have the new Scott handlebars. Those road hazards Mike Plant talked about just a few moments ago have become a bloody reality for at least one rider. Steve Senna of Arlington, Virginia finds himself a bit cut and bruised, a little shaken up after a tumble, and while Senna gathers his wits and prepares to resume, the race continues. Another hazard in play, railroad tracks with a temporary cover. Some athletes going over, some not. Obviously, Judy Schmidt succumbed to the railroad hazard. She went down, and unfortunately, she will not be able to continue today's race. And it's amazing how trouble spots along the race have a way of making themselves known, of reaching out and nabbing unsuspecting victims. Back to the leaders, the competition on the women's side of the bike race is intense. At the moment, the leader is Kirsten Hansen. And Kirsten is one of the top competitors on the USTS circuit, but she knows all too well that a lead in this sport is a fragile thing, something that can be taken away as quickly as it is gained. And as she pours it on here and heads for the next transition area, Kirsten knows that behind her, following her, she's being chased by a whole group of riders, all possessing that same burning determination to win. But what she doesn't know is that right at this point, Liz Bullman has Kirsten Hansen in her sights. She's just about to lose her hard-fought lead. Liz Bullman on the right, overtaking Kirsten on the left. Both multi-time winners on the USTS circuit. Friendly competitors as well. Kirsten here will actually talk to Liz, and Liz will respond. Liz giving Kirsten a little information about a group of riders behind, and she pedals on towards downtown Baltimore. The riders wind their way through the streets of Baltimore, a city full of residential neighborhoods that on this Sunday morning have been overtaken by nearly 2,000 triathletes. And helping to make sure that that finish line goal is not diluted are almost 400 Baltimore policemen who've been preparing for this June onslaught since last winter.
All right, everybody knows why you're here, and I hope you all know how big this is. We got 120 people here, maybe 130. The most important thing is the safety of these bicycles and the runners and the swimmers. And let's, if anything, give them the right of way on the roads. Don't let a car hit them. Keep the cars off the roads that aren't supposed to be cars on. Emergency vehicles are going to have the right of way. You're going to have to stop and let the emergency vehicles get in and out any way you can. But that's the only thing that's going to have to get in and out. Keep your hats on. I know you're tired of hearing that after 20 years. Keep your hats on. Be outside your car and be on Channel C. Listen up. Okay. Yeah, you wear a baseball hat. You can. You got to learn how to play baseball first. All right, any more questions? All right, good luck and be careful.
Lieutenant Johnson heads out now to check all of the critical points on the race course where all the officers are stationed. Without the cooperation of the police, these events just wouldn't happen.
Parking on this side here?
Yeah, I'd have no problem with that.
Yeah, but I mean, some of them don't want to get out. They could park over on this side.
Yes, sir, I was telling them that.
Yeah, but once it gets going, they ain't going to be able to come out. Because I don't even think you can see that far down there enough to let them out. Place are going to be running.
Going to take that kind of
no, because they're going to be running about 30 miles an hour. They got their heads down. They can't see, so.
Well, one competitor who can see very clearly is Mike Pigg. With no one in front of him, Pigg, the new leader, is the latest in a long line of new and unusual developments by triathletes in this growing sport.
Even if it's just psychological, just so that at least you know that you're starting the race on an equal footing as everyone, you know. Whereas, you know, sometimes you go to a race and you'll see these guys with, you know, the disc wheels, the funny bikes or the funny handlebars, and sort of psychologically you think, gee, I haven't got as good a gear as them, and so automatically you sort of put back about probably a minute.
Yeah, that hurts real bad if you don't think you have as good as equipment as everyone. Just no matter how talented mentally wise you are, if you don't think you're starting on the good equipment, you just start going in circles with yourself saying, oh, I don't have that. He's going faster because he's got a better bike.
The general consensus from the top pros is that these Scott handlebars may save as much as 3 minutes in a 40-kilometer bike ride. And wetsuits may be up to a minute in the water. All told, 4 minutes.
Baltimore is one of the largest races in the Bud Light United States Triathlon Series circuit. It was filled to its capacity nearly 2 months ago. There are almost 1,800 individuals competing, as well as 75 relay teams. And the action continues from beautiful Baltimore in just a moment, so stay with us.
Come on, guys, let's catch some rays.
Hey, how about over here? No, there are no chicks over here.
Hey, check out the new Diet Coke machine.
Gee, nice look.
Hey, I could go for a soft drink now.
Me too. Yeah, that'd be great.
Hey, Arthur, what do they got?
Well, let me see. They got Diet Coke, and Diet Coke. Great selection.
Diet Coke with 100% NutraSweet. 1 calorie just for the taste of it.
Say, anybody got any money?
Oh, gee, I left my wallet in my other suit.
You're always saying
Well,
that.
I did. Come here.
He thought he was the best, and he came to prove it.
Welcome to Pipeline.
Until a true champion showed him.
Why do you hate contests so much? Bring out the worst in the human animal.
The difference between winning and being the best.
Pure surfer goes with the wave. He works with it.
This is The North Shore, rated PG. Now playing at theaters everywhere.
The symbol of excellence, the legendary Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost, now recreated by Franklin Mint Precision Models in the official die-cast model authorized by Rolls-Royce Motor Cars Limited. The 1907 Silver Ghost, only one was ever built, and now it's recreated in an incredible model, hand-assembled from more than 127 pieces. Each feature is authentic. The removable spare tire, protectively coated sterling silver-plated trim, pedals, instruments, and engine details precise to the very last spark plug. A stunning collector's piece for home or office. To order, call 1-800-453-1600. Use your credit card or mail $30 and be billed the balance in 3 payments. The imported Silver Ghost with certificate of authenticity. Call 1-800-453-1600. The Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost.
There's nothing quite like owning a Rolls-Royce.
Put some kick in your Sunday nights. Pro football never looked so good. The NFL comes to ESPN live this fall. Cable TV is your ticket to the NFL when the Chicago Bears tackle the Miami Dolphins. Sunday night at 8 Eastern. The NFL live on ESPN.
With the second transition area now in sight, Mike Pigg has a clear lead. But like every leader in a race, he knows he's being chased. Sort of like the fox on the run with hounds nipping at your heels. As he makes the transformation from bike to run and heads off into the final leg of the journey, he knows he's won nothing yet.
Go for it, go for it.
And as Mike Pigg heads out onto the run, we see Mark Allen now entering the transition area. And Mark, too, knows that he's right behind Mike in second place and realizes that victory may well be within his grasp. Well, Mark ran into a little trouble here. Really, as a professional triathlete, as do all triathletes, Mark has a responsibility to correctly rack his bike. He came in, he went to the first bike, or the second bike rack, not the first one. I think Mark Allen might have gotten away with something here. Transition etiquette requires that you correctly rack your bike. Mark is confused, obviously. He's a little shaken up. He finally gets out onto the run course, And while Mark runs out onto the course chasing this guy, Mike Pigg, I really think that Mark Allen sort of got away with one. In any event, the race is on, and no one senses that more than our leader, Mike Pigg. It's hard to take comfort in a first-place lead, knowing that one of the world's greatest triathletes is right behind you. Hundreds of other athletes prepare to finish biking and begin running, and by now the streets are flooded with athletes. One of the things that makes this Baltimore USTS event so spectacular is the fact that we ride from Gunpowder Falls State Park all the way into Inner Harbor. Right here at the corner of 33rd Street and Greenmont Avenue, we're about 5 miles from the Inner Harbor, 20 miles of bicycle course behind us, 5 miles to go right through the center of town. As you can see, the riders go by me on the city streets. We had a chance to talk to some of the spectators, some of the residents here in Baltimore, just about what they think is going on this morning. Oh, there's 1,800 triathletes here also.
Oh, yeah, Lord mercy. Boy, they're doing good, though.
Do you live near here?
Yeah, I live down 22nd Street.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah.
What do you think of all this? I mean,
I think it's great, great. I don't know what's out there looking at them. I enjoy looking at them.
Well, what do you think of this morning?
I was thinking it was nice to be young.
We're very upset because we didn't know we were going to get tied up in this traffic.
Oblivious to all the traffic and problems, Mike Pigg is focused on two things: himself and maintaining his lead over the ever-present Mark Allen. Pigg and Allen have removed themselves from the rest of the pack, and now, like two prize fighters in the ring, they're preparing for a showdown they know can't be avoided. Up ahead, the perfect setting for their private duel, the historic battlefield known as Fort McHenry. On the women's side is just as intense and just as tight. The first rider into the transition area is Kirsten Hansen. Right behind her, Colleen Cannon. Kirsten and Colleen, and the scenario is repeated time and again. Athletes in the midst of battle, trading in one piece of equipment for another. A bicycle for a pair of running shoes, and the race continues. And as Colleen heads out onto the race course in pursuit of Kirsten Hansen, the streets are beginning to fill up with runners, all straining and driving, pushing themselves to the limit. And there goes Liz Bowman out on the course in a close third position. And here we've got two very familiar faces, Scott Molina on the right and Kenny Glaw on the left. First place is not at stake here, but third and fourth place is. Literally from the opening gun, Scott Molina and Kenny Glaw have been shoulder to shoulder. Coming out of Fort McHenry, running with everything he's got, is Mike Pigg. Still the leader, and he's not about to quit, not about to let go. But somebody forgot to tell Mark Allen about quitting. He's been chasing Pigg all day long, and now he's closing in. And I'm going to tell you something, Mike Pigg knows it. But these guys are competitors, they're veteran triathletes, and when you think of competition, you think of great athletic moments. Scenes like this one come quickly to mind. Two athletes, tired, straining, refusing to give up, reaching for every last ounce of energy. And two of the fiercest competitors in the entire world in triathlon are now going to be running shoulder to shoulder, and we're an hour and 38 minutes into this race, and the race would seem like it's just starting. They swam in the Bay water. They rode through the streets of Baltimore, and now they meet as one. And somehow you get the feeling it was sort of meant to be this way. After sizing up his competition for several minutes, Mark Allen makes a move and grabs the lead from Mike Pigg. Once he begins to taste victory, Mark wants a bigger bite. He knows that the objective now is to put as much ground as he can between himself and the game but tiring Mike Pigg. Triathlon, sweeping America. Catch the fever. Write USTS, Box 1389, Department Z, Solana Beach, California, 92075.
Ours, as you know, is not a perfect world. May I? That's why it's so refreshing when something really perfect comes along. Like Diet Coke. Tastes great straight or on the rocks. Yet it's just 1 calorie. That's why Diet Coke is the perfect soft drink. For an imperfect world.
Diet Coke. The upset of the week is brought to you by Pepto-Bismol. For most common stomach discomforts, the one that coats is the only one you need. Monday night in Anaheim, Minnesota Twins pitcher Joe Niekro's glove is examined by the umpire. The knuckleball specialist was then asked to empty his pockets. When he did, an emery board flew from his hand and landed on the ground. Niekro was immediately ejected for defacing the ball. Joe Niekro, the first pitcher since 1982, suspended for doctoring a baseball. The Pepto-Bismol upset of the week.
Daddy?
What? What's the matter?
Teddy says he has a tummy ache. It hurts.
What about Teddy's big buddy? Do you have a tummy ache, too?
Mm-hmm.
I think you both need this.
Here it comes. The soothing relief of Pepto-Bismol. The one that coats is the only one you need.
Feeling better?
Fine. But Teddy says he needs another story.
Mark Allen, one of the most popular triathletes in the world as he widens his lead over Mike Pigg, runs with the assurance that his sport is a sport where the stars run side by side with the amateurs. Novices who only dream of the victories that the Mark Allens and the Mike Piggs have come to know.
I think one of the best things about this sport is that the professionals and the amateurs race side by side. Sometimes we start 5 minutes ahead of them, let's say, but they're able to stand around the swim start, watch us, see us, get a feel for us, and then on the way most of the courses are designed, you pass the people once or twice on the bike and the run. I know that a lot of running races that I've been in where, let's say, somebody like Bill Rogers has been out there, heck, I never see the guy because they put him 50 yards, 100 yards starting ahead of me. I never get to see him, and he's gone and showered by the time I get in. So I think this is a special sport in that sense that the guy in the back of the pack kind of gets a feel for the top athletes. He gets to see him, he gets to cheer for his favorite when he comes by him. That's good.
This is a tremendous performance, and there's Mike Pigg just coming in.
The race announcer, Mike Plant, calling the final strides for Mark Allen. The end is finally in sight to the contest that began nearly 2 hours ago. Mark Allen, the victor today. Everything he's worked for and trained for is finally his. Mike Pigg, gamely finishing second today, just 20-some seconds behind Mark Allen. One of the best races Mike Pigg's ever run, only to finish second to perhaps the best triathlete in the world. It wasn't too long ago that 1,800 people threw themselves into the Chesapeake Bay, but only one can finish first.
She's been training hard, and she's been in good
And it's looking like it'll be Colleen Cannon. Her first USTS victory in more than 2 years. Colleen has come back with a vengeance.
This is an old timer.
With the fastest run of the day, overtaking Kirsten Hansen in the first couple of kilometers on the run. Colleen thrilled with her victory today.
1983 and 1984, she's had some off years, some injuries, some things that interrupted her training, but obviously she is back in first strength. She'd be a top field today, certainly a top field today. Here's Kirsten.
And Kirsten Hansen finishing second. She'll retain her Coke leader's red jersey. And as you can see, Kirsten stride for the finish line. She's leaving nothing behind. She knows she's in second place. She could walk if she wanted to, but she's a game competitor, just like all of the top triathletes. Kirsten Hansen, second place today.
Kirsten Hansen, second.
Ah, congratulations. Oh, you ran great.
When you have almost 1,800 athletes participating, you need a lot of help for these people, and that's why we have volunteers. In fact, we have about 1,200 volunteers, or roughly one volunteer for every 1.5 triathletes. And race officials tell us that these triathletes will consume somewhere in the neighborhood of 60,000 cups of liquid refreshment. Here in Baltimore, our triathlon will continue in just a moment.
ESPN and WCN Advertising are pleased to announce a new programming package for local advertisers. Beginning August 16th, ESPN will televise the NFL with 4 preseason games and 8 regular season games, plus the AFC NFC Pro Bowl. For an incredibly low price, you'll be able to advertise your business in your area, reaching what is expected to be a major share of the viewing public on Sundays this fall. Call WCN Advertising for more information. Don't miss this golden opportunity to get the most out of your advertising dollars.
Explore an island rejoicing in its renaissance from the vantage point of Galveston's most charming hotel, the Tremont House, a smartly sophisticated landmark restoration in the historic Strand District. Outside your door, explore shopping on the Strand, historic sailing vessels, and of course, the best beach on the coast. Grandeur, Victorian style, hospitality, southern genteel. The Tremont House, Galveston.
While Mark Allen and Mike Pigg waged a battle for the win, a tremendous story developed for third place. Kenny Glaw and Scott Molina literally went shoulder to shoulder the entire day. The swim differential, 7 seconds. Edge, Kenny Glaw. The bicycling portion, 17 seconds. The edge, Kenny Glaw. The run portion, 2 seconds. The edge, Scott Molina. Now, we also have to add transitions in here. Scott Molina, through both transitions, made up 20 seconds. At the wire, Kenny Glaw by 2 seconds over Scott Molina. An unbelievable performance for Ken Glaw. These guys went shoulder to shoulder the entire day. Kenny Glaw's got to be awful proud of this third place finish. Other stories being played out on this race course. Peter Zarba, wheelchair victim from Lynbrook, New York, is part of a relay team. And Don Heineke, 72 years old, finished the 1929 Boston Marathon in second place. And here he is in 1987, nearly 60 years later, as a triathlete. From Boston Marathon veteran Don Heineke, we go to another oddity in the sport of triathlons, twins. We have several sets of twins competing. We watched Sylviane and Patricia Puntos go first and third in Miami. Here we've got the Texas twins, Diane and Jan Gerard.
Well, we usually aren't that much together during the race. We kind of trade back and forth on who wins the race between each other. And, you know, we can't really tell who's going to win the race. It's whoever has a better day. But we've only done one race where we finished together, and it gives you an advantage because you got somebody right there. Yeah. But we had already had it planned because we knew that we'd be together. Yeah. But in these races, it's just, you know, go as fast and hard as you can. So
yeah. As far as the Puntos twins go, I talked with them in Florida one time and asked them if they liked running together, and they don't. It bugs them because one of them, the one that's in the lead a little bit, is running too fast, and the other one gets mad because she has to stay up with her. And I can understand that.
It is good working out together because, like, we push each other, and sometimes, you know, yourself, like, if you're working out and you say if he's not going to be here, I'm not going to go work out or something like that. But, you know, we really do push each other, and we feel good about it.
Get a load of him. Well, there's a super party animal. Buds, call me. Go, Buds, go.
Triathlons, sweeping America. Catch the fever. Write USTS, Box 1389, Department Z, Solana Beach, California, 92075.
How far do your kids have to go when they need information in a hurry?
I better get to the library before it closes.
If he only had the new Encyclopedia Britannica at home, he wouldn't have to go through all this. He could be learning right now about science, art, medicine. A 2-volume index makes subjects easy to find, and thousands of illustrations bring them to life. The new Encyclopedia Britannica. It's your key to the information age. But they can't use it if they can't get to it. Call this toll-free number for a free booklet on Britannica. Plus, receive your first copy of Britannica World Data Annual. It's free from Britannica Home Library Service when you acquire Britannica. Preview Britannica and receive free this 3-volume desk reference set.
Call 1-800-554-9000 for your free booklet and details on how you can receive your desk reference set. Encyclopedia Britannica, the library that never closes.
The man who wins the Canadian Open claims one of the most prestigious titles in tennis. The world's most competitive players meet in the semifinals. Live Saturday at 1 Eastern, only on ESPN.
From our helicopter, the second transition area, riders finishing the bike ride, preparing to head out on the 10-kilometer run through Fort McHenry here. You can see the cannon batteries overlooking the harbor. Hundreds of triathletes in the middle of their 10K run around the famous fort. The story of the day was that battle for first place among the men. At the end of the bike ride, Mike Pigg leads by 1:20. Nearing Fort McHenry, the lead's been shaved to 49 seconds. Exiting the fort, the lead's been cut in half yet again to 22 seconds. Mark Allen in hot pursuit. And with 1 mile to go, Mark Allen finally hits the lead.
Today, I kind of was wondering if he had me, because he was about 1.5 minutes ahead off the bike. And I thought, well, kind of the old saying in triathlons is that the race isn't over till you cross the finish line. So I just kept trying to keep a real strong, steady pace the first couple miles. And then somewhere around mile 3.5, I could finally see him and see what he was looking like. And then I caught him about mile 4.5, stayed behind him a little bit, saw what his pace was, and said, okay, here it goes. Let's see what we can do.
Isn't it unusual to change your equipment just a couple of days before a race? I mean, would you wear new shoes 2 days ahead of time and break those in?
No, not really, but I figured last weekend Kirsten and Liz Bowman beat me off the bike by 3 minutes, and they had the handlebars and I didn't. And it was almost the same kind of course. It wasn't as hilly. So I decided I'm going to go for it. You know, whatever I can do to make myself go faster, I'm going to do. So I was just thanking God that I had all the equipment. I was lucky enough to get the bars and put them on, and they were safe and they fit. They work well for me.
On the course, Obi, a famous volunteer, been with us 3 years, gives words of encouragement to finishing triathletes.
5 water stops up ahead. All the Bud Light you want to drink. Here comes the smiler. Here comes the smiler. 5 water stops up ahead and all the Bud Light you want. Mention my name, Obi, and I'll give you all the Bud Light you want. Here.
And as the sun approaches high noon, we see triathletes finishing in what's been a terrific day in Baltimore, Maryland.
Just for the satisfaction, just for the just for the taste of the Diet Coke.
Or try caffeine-free Diet Coke. Same great taste as Diet Coke without the caffeine.
Just for the taste of the Diet Coke.
Triathlons, sweeping America. Catch the fever. Write USTS, Box 1389, Department Z, Solana Beach, California, 92075.
It's one of the major turf races of the summer. Horse of the Year candidate